Hey, so I guess I started like most people. I moved to Sheffield to go to university and spent more time working, drinking, eating in pubs and restaurants than I did do my degree. And I worked for All Bar One, which at the time, 92, 93, it was it was quite a bit forefront, it had really high service and standards for the high street. And it was the forefront to the gastropubs. It had that London vibe, and I worked with them part time, and I went to the graduate scheme with them. I worked in Glasgow and came out to Sheffield. And as a GM, I was young, ambitious, but I was frustrated. So the menu was static, like most high streets, and boring. It wasn't seasonal. And so I started doing special sports, and they were amazing. We were busy. A lot of the people I see around the city now, I still remember them from when we were in Old Bar One. But I got frustrated and disciplined due to brand busting and having my own vision for a brand that wasn't mine. So eventually it came to a point where I was looking to start our own gastropub. There was gastropubs in London. The Eagle was the first one. There wasn't anything really in the Yorkshire region as such that was accessible. And we found the Milestone in Kelham Island. So Kelham Island was still the red light district then. It was tipped to be amazing. It is amazing. It got there eventually. It just took a few credit crunches and floods along the way for us to get there. But we were able to blag a bank manager used to eat in All Bar, wanting to give us a bank loan to purchase the building. Yeah, and so we set up the Milestone in 2006. It took us 12 months to open. Credit cards through the roof. The wife got a new job, so we told the bank manager we needed a new car. We got 10 grand and paid the builder. It was the typical bootstrapping story that you hear. And then we got open, and it was worked 6 months straight, no days off, no holidays. We just don't have the cash flow. But we had amazing chefs, and we believed in making everything ourselves. So coming from the high street, which was go to breaks, go to halls where you buy everything en masse, and it just comes in. We were anti that, and we made our own bread, we made our own ketchups to start with, made our own black pudding, and we had a vision. But the downside to our vision was that we tried to do everything for everyone. So we had pizzas, tapas, fine dining, everything, and that was hard. And then we flooded, so we were shut for 7 months we've been open 7 months, and then Kelham Island was 10 foot underwater. But because we made our own bread, we had sacks and sacks of flour. So we actually used them as sandbags, and they set like cement. And we didn't actually flood, just our cellar, but we'd taken all the beer and booze up, and we drank most of it that night in horror of what was happening. And we got reopened. So we had chefs on the payroll, we were on payroll, and we couldn't not pay them. So we cleaned up, we got open, and we were open within 7 days. Unfortunately, the media told everyone that Kelham Island was still 6 foot underwater and like Glastonbury. So we were dead. And so it's from those things where you're creative, and you either chuck the towel in, or you're like, I've no option. We have to drive on. And so from that, it's when we started really looking into who we were and what we became. So we started our cookery schools, because we were cooking everything fresh. People were like, oh, my granny used to do this, or how did you know that? And it was like, oh, it's an old recipe. But the beauty of cooking nose to tail was that it was cheap. So we used to say anyone can cook a fillet. Well, most people can cook a fillet, but we couldn't afford to buy fillet steaks. So we were buying the nose to tail, and that led us into getting our own pigs. So we grew our own pigs, and that was an amazing part of our journey in our life, the Milestone, and that really put us on the map. We were all in on that vision. And then Mr. Ramsey came along. It was me and Mark, who was my business partner at the time, and then Simon and James, our head chefs. And we were 24 to 27, jumped up little sherbets. We thought we'd do better. And they obviously presumed it would make good TV. And so we did a test film, and then for Channel 4, and next thing we knew, we were getting signed up to do this Gordon's Best Restaurant, which we're terrified was going to be like the other show does, which isn't very good, but it was all positive. And so we did that. Exposure was amazing. He was actually quite decent to us. On camera, he was a bit of a bar steward, but off camera, he gave us advice. And that catapulted us into how we managed to expand the business. That gave us the cash flow, because a Saturday night, how busy a Saturday was for us back then, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was that busy. So the hard part was, how do we maintain service and standards? And I think that's where we slipped, because we saw the volumes and we ran the volume through, and we allowed ourselves to be a little bit greedy, and our service and standards slipped at that point. And he helped us refine. We got rid of like a separate restaurant, fine dining upstairs, got rid of the tapas, got rid of the pizza, and we were 100% nose to tail cooking. Pig trotters on. We used to do pig week, in fact. So we used to do a week where the entire menu was pigs. I don't think our vegan and vegetarians would allow us to do that these days. The menu was entirely pigs, because we had these 6 pigs being reared, and the farmer decided that he wouldn't just slaughter one at a time, slaughter all 6. And he turned up at the front door with 12 halves of pigs, and so we had to sell it. So that's how things happen. But that became part of our success. So we had pigs weeks. We used to have lamb week, sheep week, and these things became in people's diaries. And so it just evolved. A lot of things happen as part of the journey, as part of mistakes and what's presented to you. I think my background was service and standards. We always believe that service and standards is something that people can't buy. And we're all paid at a service level, roughly the same amount of money. But it's that hidden free service that people remember. Everyone wants to walk into a bar, restaurant, coffee shop, and they might not know your name, but they'll say flat white, or they'll know why you're in, and you're part of the micro community that they'll see on a frequently basis. And so I'm not one to stand and say, we've tried it. We've stood on platforms and said, we are great, look what we're doing. And people just throw bricks at you. They want to knock you off that pedestal. So we'd rather people come to us, and our brands and investments are known for their service and standards, and they recognize that you will have a great service, or you will have a great experience, or they will challenge the norm. You won't go there for a bog standard dish. You will get something cooked up with that's authentic, and there's heart in it, and it's warm and welcoming. And Cutlery Works, we didn't really promote it because we never really had a timeline. We were that much in the shit trying to create it ourselves. So we did it ourselves. We effectively locked the door, got some Jack the Lads in, and we knocked up this food hall in 15 weeks. So Nina was project managing it, and then it was like being back at the milestone. We created like 4,000 square foot restaurants. We'd never done 15,000 square foot warehouse with no infrastructure. And so we were working that hard on it that the overview never really happened. So it was then, we need to get open. And then, so we completed it. And we absolutely hated Cutlery Works for 2 weeks because it had broken us. We opened it and we sat in the corner, had a bit of sushi, and went home and just went to bed. And then after about 2 weeks, everyone's like, this place is amazing. We were like, yeah, it's quite good actually. And it felt like it was worth it, but we were that just tired by the end of it. It didn't get long, but I spoke to you earlier about we don't like to pay for advertising. We do press release. And we're quite good at writing press releases, lots of photos. So if you know the press, we'll just copy and paste it. And we also collect data. We believe data is king. So we've always collected data from email addresses, newsletters. And now we've got quite sophisticated. So when you come and use our app, we'll know when you've been, what your purchase habits are, how much average spend is, when you last came. And so we'll set up automations now to say, we haven't seen you in 30 days. Here's 20%, or thank you for your first visit, here's a £5. Because we know that it'll take you about 4 or 5 visits to become committed, regular. And so when Cutlery Works opened, we kept it on the lowdown that we just did it via our own database. So we've got about 30,000 people on our Sheffield database right now. It was probably about 40,000 when we opened Cutlery Works, and the app has just helped to harvest data. And so we just do that. Newsletters go out, automations go out. We're very big on social media these days. We believe social media is key and keeping it fresh and interesting. But I think when Cutlery Works opened, we were helped because it was amplified by 13 other kitchens. So they had their own audience. They were all pushing it to their own friends, families, guests. And then we realized that those lights that Five Rivers put up, the hanging colourful lights, were actually on every single Instagram feed that we looked at for the first couple of months. We were like, well, this is easy. It just says everyone's tagging Cutlery Works behind these lights. And so it kind of talked for itself. We then did some partnerships. We do quite a bit of charity work. So we partnered up with feeding the kids at Christmas, the holiday feeding, and the food bank. And so we believe in giving back, because if we're charging 15 quid, 20 quid about getting a milestone in an area of deprivation that has 4 food banks, it doesn't really sit right in our conscious that we're peddling this to the middle classes and there's people suffering. So we give back and we encourage our guests to give back. So in 2019 we gave back 17,500 meals, and that creates a warm story which can help push our awareness as well as the food bank scores. So yes, we are Recruitment. We're always on the hunt for talent. And the one in the city, we're due to get handed over in August next year to be opened Jan-Feb 23. That's a big one. It's 30,000 square foot, so it's twice the size of Cutlery Works. We want that to be different to Cutlery Works. So Cutlery Works has its own people, its own kitchens, and it's that first wave of food market entrepreneurs have come through, and they were doing the circuits, and now they want their own bricks and mortar. So we see the beauty of food halls is that you can get open for a few £1,000s. So if you've got an amazing product and you can get into a food hall for 5 to 6 grand, you could open your first kitchen, and it automatically puts you on an elevator. Because if you were starting your own restaurant, cafe, you'd need a lot more money. You'd then have to do all the marketing, driving footfall, everything yourself. But by coming into the platform, which is the food hall, you're almost on this accelerator whereby we're partners. So it's in as much our interest as it is your interest for it to be busy, because we work on turnover-based rent. So we're there to drive footfall. We want people in that building spending money. And so that's where we align. The traditional landlord doesn't work because he gets paid whether you do good or bad. We get paid if you do good. So that's where it works, and that's why not only do we want the talent and amazing food, it's also because we love Sheffield and we want Sheffield to be this mecca for food. And we've done our bit, and we've invested in other brands and people who are now got their own kitchens. But there's so much more out there that we don't see. So there's only so many restaurants that are great that you can get into on a Saturday night. There's only so many high streets you can get into. And I think the issue we have right now is that if we go on holiday somewhere, we will go and hunt out these back streets for amazing, authentic food. But in our own cities and towns, we stick to what we know. We don't go into your Spittle Hills. We don't go looking down London Road like we should do. And we're finding these people who are cooking from the heart, who are cooking regional food. And it's as much our problem trying to find these people as an operator as a food hall as it is coming to us. Because we take our social media, for example, it's English for one. We only write in English. It's very much a white platform at the minute, and it's how do we get into these communities. So we finally, coffee took me 7 months to get into, to find some good grades to do coffee for Cutlery Works, and that was tasting and then getting to know them, just going to their cafe, trying to make a conversation. So that was like a 7 months courtship I had with Leah at Foundry. do like some experience, because if we throw you into Cutlery Works, it's an absolute beast. So she chews you up and spits you out, that lady. It's a machine on a Friday and Saturday. The volumes, we do have 6,000 to 8,000 people a week, so you can see the volumes that come through the building. And at peak times, I think Conjo was saying to me 2-3 weeks ago that they were hitting a check a minute for 2 or 3 hours. And so it's that experience of being able to churn out amazing food. And it's having your systems in place. Systems are key. We can all cook Instagram food and make it look great, but can we do it in a high pressure environment? So I guess going back to your question is that Pinch and Pull's a great example. So he's took a common cuisine, so he's got Mexican food, but his background is as a chef at a really good level. So he's actually taken his learning and his skill in a French-based English cuisine and used that to enhance the flavors of the Mexican food. And I think that's part of the reason why he's doing so well at the moment, is that he's just elevated the cuisine. But I know that when he started as Pinch and Pull, he was trying to do all things for all people, which is what we started off doing. And once you're home down to doing what that niche product and what you're actually really passionate about, I think that is when you start to really go on an upward trajectory. Just try not to please everybody. But then people do come to us, and we've taken people on who are raw, but they've got their own, they've done it for the people, and they want to do their mother's cooking, or they want to do this. And it's looking for that fire in their eyes, and that fire in their belly, and that commitment. Because once you're in, we're not going to let you shut because you're tired or you're not got staff. It's a commercial business, and we're all here for that commercial, and we're all here to grow. So we will mentor you and we will take you on a journey, but it's tough love at the end of the day. We have chucked managers onto people's tools and stuff like that, and like, just cook, we'll get you out of this. What's under the hood? As in the financials, I'm guessing is what you mean, how it all works?
Yeah, I guess that is what I'm getting at.
I thought so.
Yeah, you've already answered some of it about like how you decide who would be suitable and that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess the nitty gritty is kind of where I was going with that.
So yeah, we'll identify people, and then we'll go to their homes, restaurants, kitchens, wherever, and we'll taste the food, and then we'll talk about how that food works and how we want it to be. Generally, we want it to be more authentic. Most of the time, people have dumbed it down, and we want it to be more authentic. And we want it to be, they'll present us food, and we'll be like, actually, what does your mum cook? What do you eat at home? You're from Hong Kong. Tell me what you cook. What do you eat? That's what we want most of the time. So that's part of that journey. And then it's a partnership effectively. So we take a turnover based rent. So we give you a base rent which covers everything. So we supply all the services, all the utilities, the managers, the runners, the pot washers, the security, the social media, the marketing. We want the kitchens to cook amazing food, and we can handle everything else on your journey. We even supply the best rates you'll see for your credit card machines. We give you the till systems, the suppliers. So we work with a purchasing group, and so we lock prices. So we get the best prices down to volume. So we do work suppliers, and we'll get you volume based on prices based on what you have. All our prices are basically locked till March next year. So with this inflation that's happening, a lot of the guys are pretty safe, and we will bring in the purchasing group, and we will play them off against each other, and we will get better prices. So you have a base rate, which is a few £100 a week, depending on location. Like Liverpool's more expensive than Sheffield because it's L1 and it's in a shopping centre. And then that one has a service charge on top. But then after that, we take 20% net of turnover. So that's why we're in that marketing game now, to drive volume and to ensure that service and standards are hit.
Just a quick clarification on that. When you say after that, can you give a rough, if someone says roughly what is the that bit of cost that you described, can you give any examples?
Yeah, of course. It's anything from the base. The base when we opened was much lower because we were doing separate meter readings, we were doing our bin waste collections, and it was just a lot of extra work which was unnecessary. So we moved over to an all-inclusive model. So they pay, depending on where they are in like Sheffield or Liverpool, they pay anything from £400 to £600 a week as base. And then if their 20% turnover is higher, we take the higher model. If that makes sense. So the base is just to cover everybody.
So it's not the rent plus the turnover percentage.
No, not at all.
Whichever is higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some that do that model. Some do. They're the one opening very soon that are doing 35 grand plus 15%, which I think is a bit excessive. They'll have a lot of churn. We want people, we want to incubate. So we want to get people at that. They're ready for that next step. Like the frustrations I had working with All Bar One, you're ready to take that next step on the ladder. So we want you to come in. The idea is that we can keep you for 18 months, 2 years, and then you're like, I'm not paying this guy another 20% anymore. I'm ready to do this myself, which is great because it then means you go on and you'll take a small unit somewhere within Sheffield and you get on that ladder and we get another amazing food operator in Sheffield. And we see this like an incubation. We keep a fresh audience coming through Cutlery Works, and then it's almost we're putting out some amazing talent back into Sheffield. And it needs it. If you look at the city centre and what we have around, it's what it is. And I met someone from the council this week, and they were saying, where's going to be next for people to, after they come through Cambridge Street and Cutlery Works? And I was like, well, the market will dictate it. We went to Kelham Island because it was cheap. It was full of hookers at 5 o'clock on an afternoon, but the rent was cheap and the business rates were cheap. And we knew that we could make a business work. But I think the council needs to look at how it helps this next. There's so many empty places. They need to take a step to say, look, we can get some meantime operators in here, or like the reason Kelham Island worked because it was cheap, and then London Roads worked, Aberdale Road, because there was a business rates break and it was cheap rent and it was up and coming. And so it's these areas which I think is what people are moving to after they've done the food halls. They could go straight into it, but I think the food halls gives you a bit of a safety net and it helps you ramp up an audience very quickly of fans, of raving fans. And then it's something you can take with you. So the data we harvest from people's visits, we do share with our operators so they can do their own marketing. We don't keep it. Any other business keeps that data because it's worth a fortune, but we're in partnership all along. So we share it and you can target your markets and you can take your data, which we think is key for your next step. We've had a few come out of Cutlery Works. So like 5 Rivers came out. Gravy Train Boys, they're about to open their first bricks and mortar very soon. Bullion have moved into a bigger factory over the road, which is really good. Ellie Joy came out and set up her own. And one more. The boys went to Barnsley, but I can't remember what they were now.
I'm like, part of it's like, feeding back what I've picked up from what you're saying as well, and I'm interested, I suppose my question is going to be more aimed at going, that sort of transition from the Milestone to the Cutlery Works and how much of that was conscious, because from what you were saying, it sounded like you wanted to do a bit of everything. It was almost challenging to do within your own gastropub bistro thing. And it sounds like that's sort of how Cutlery Works is almost like a net deposit of that, isn't it? Where you're almost enabling it through other people. But how much of that was conscious and the other sort of messages around? And it sounds like you probably built up that experience that it feels like customers will give you a chance once if you create something interesting enough, if you deliver and turn them into retained customers, which sounds like a really good message for me. And that's definitely what we sort of work on with the traders that we work with, which is around that of going, if you can create something interesting, that's the most important thing that we feel like is in food business. You'll get that first chance, won't you? And it's then, if it's good enough and the service and the product's good enough, people will come back. But how much of that was a conscious choice? What happened that journey from the Milestone to the Cutlery Works? And was it like a thing of going, step, or did it just happen?
Yeah. First of all, you're right though, cash flow is king. that Piad was mentioning to you. We're a big believer in cash flow is king. But I guess the journey between the milestone and getting to Cutlery Works was ups and downs. We all fight many battles within the food industry. We've had success and we've had absolute failures. And it's just dusting yourself off and carrying on with your courage and conviction or stupidity in your own beliefs. But with the pizzas that were in the milestone, actually then went into crafting dough. So we started off crafting dough as this amazing pizza's a great cash flow business. So it's 80% profit on a pizza, and then there was this wave coming along of craft beer. So we did this, and it soon caught on that it's a couple of grand to make a pizza oven, and so there was all of a sudden there was loads of pizza brands in Sheffield. So that's where that spun out into that, and we then had crafting dough at the Wigan Pen. So Wigan Pen came off as a spin-off from the milestone, and then we took on Fancy on Exo Road, which was an absolute disaster for us. If we could sidestep anything, we'd sidestep going on Exo Road. So Exo Road was horrific. So we burnt our toes on Exo Road and came away. And then we invested in some talent. So Luke and Stacey worked for us as head chef, and Stacey looked after their businesses. And so they created Yolo. So they were amazing operators. They were ready to do their own thing. And so we invested in those two, and we've just left them to do their thing, and they are flying. They're doing amazing. And so Cutlery Works was, we used to escape after Christmas to Asia in January for 3 weeks, and we just used to eat. That's all we did. It was beaches, but we spent more time hunting out food. And so we go to food halls, and then we had Billy, who was our little boy, and it was, these food halls were an eclectic mix of people who were passionate. They were cooking one style of food, which they were extremely good at. And people were meeting around a table, and there were families there, and they were chatting, they were laughing, they were discussing the day. And they weren't just sat at home with a tray on their knee watching Spider-Man or whatever it is, Netflix. And it was this that we loved and thought, this is how it should be. We should have choice, but we should have amazing food within that choice, not a menu that's 100 items in a microwave. And we should be able to be accessible and for families or just people have to work on a drink. And it was that that drove us to it. And just before Peddlers, we actually looked at doing that type of food market, but we never pursued it. We had too much going on, and Peddlers smashed it. So we then realized that these guys who were doing the circuits for Peddlers, Chow Down, and all those, they were amazing. But if it rained, they made no money, and they probably made a loss because of the food. They had no bricks and mortar, they had no bread and butter coming in to service their business. So we thought the next step has to be a permanent food hall. And so it was taking what we love, that family, all-day dining, into Cutlery Works. And yeah, it was, what do we want? We want Asian food. But it took us, I don't know, 12 months to get into the Chinese community, to get them to trust us that they can come into our food hall and that we are good operators. And so that was a massive journey. We nearly had two different ones over the line, but we never converted them. Eventually we got China Red, who does amazing Szechuan food, like Thai 25, who actually we met him in lockdown. So he used to let us into his kitchens, put the shutters up, put the shutters down. We had this prohibition Thai cook-off on a Sunday. But it is indulgent into what you want. But I guess part of it is the energy we had when we did the milestone, we don't have now at 42. And so it's finding talent and giving that talent a platform to make, because we wanted to do everything. We want Sheffield to be amazing, but you can't do everything. And so you're trying to find some talent that you can put back out there.
I want to ask one more question from the chat, Matt. So can you see Luke's question there? He says, hi, very interesting talk. 2 questions. Who covers the equipment and setup costs? Cutlery Works or the vendor? As a pop-up style, is there a limit on how long a vendor can stay?
Yeah, of course. So, so costs. So basically, if you heat it or chill it, it's your cost. So a fridge, a freezer, cooking equipment, and then plates. That's all. That's all down to the operator. We supply the cutlery on the tables and everything else. You just need to bring your fridges, cooking equipment, storage equipment, that type of stuff. And we tend to start people off on 6 to 12 month contract. Some do have longer, but I think it's good. 18 months, 2 years is about the right time when you start to think, I can do this myself. We've got some people in Cutlery Works who are like, this is easy. I make good money. I've got 4 staff. I'm happy to stay. And that's their business model. They just want to be more food halls because they can just cook. They need to put in a couple of staff and they can create a little brand within a few food halls. They don't have to worry about the front of house, business rates and all that. So I guess in the early days, because I was desperate to get people to sign contracts, we gave longer contracts. Right now, the contracts are a bit shorter. I actually believe if you can make it in Sheffield, you can make it anywhere because it's a tough city. It's a really tough city. They come out to the weekend, you don't see them Monday to Friday. That's one issue with Sheffield. We don't have the financial institutes within Sheffield. So Sheffield went into law court rather than financial-based city. And so a lot of successful cities like your Leeds and your Manchesters, your Liverpool, they all have financial quarters and they sustain a weekday economy within food and drink. Unfortunately, Sheffield doesn't have that. It doesn't really have a high street right now, but it's fiercely loyal to independence, the people of Sheffield. And like you alluded to earlier, it was if you do something good and you're passionate and you're doing this, they will seek you out. You just have to make sure that when you do make mistakes that we acknowledge it and we compensate the guest by over compensating to that guest and being humble. They'll come back. Even if we make the slightest mistake, we'll always say to you, look guys, we'll get down at the same level as them and we'll set up top. Don't pay for this. Come back. Here's my number. Give us a shout. And then it's on us next time. Let us be able to show you the true experience. And we find that works, but I guess the other challenges of the strengths of Sheffield is that it's on the up. We can see what's coming into Sheffield as part of the city. All the chains, all the big boys are coming into Sheffield because it's an untapped market. It's got an affluent society. People have got cash to spend. They're from Yorkshire, so they're tight. So we have to give them value for money and a great experience. But when we open Cutlery Works, we're like, where's these 8,000 people coming from every week? And I believe that they're coming because they came from behind these logs because there's nothing to do. It's a lack of experiences. It's a lack of quality that will drive people out. So the more we put out there, the better we are. I think the more the economy will boom. Yeah, there's always challenges with HR, especially in this environment. It's changed a lot since I started. I used to just tell them to get the bags and do that, but it's definitely changed now. We actually spend a few £100s a month, and it's amazing to have a HR solicitor on retainer. And so we have everything on paperwork's key these days because we get challenged on everything now. Before people didn't see that first, but now they'll literally challenge you on everything. So we have packs, so when you sign up, it's all digital. So our staff get a handbook, they get documentations, it's a digital sign, they get a copy, we get a copy. And then it's taking them through the proper inductions. It's not, here's a fire exit, there's the bar, crack on. Yeah, it's full. It's got to be done properly these days. I guess the biggest challenge was looking after our team during the pandemic. That it was the uncertainty. So Bobby said, don't go to bars and restaurants on the Monday. So on Tuesday, I was like, well, we've no business. I can't afford to make payroll at the end of the month if this is what he's encouraging. So we had to lay all our staff off at 8:30 that following day, purely for the fact that we didn't want to string them along. And then Thursday, we brought out this thing called furlough, which we'd never heard of. And then Friday morning, we never actually issued the letters to actually lay anyone off. And then Friday, we put everyone back in and banged everyone on furlough. And I guess that was the biggest, it's the unknown. We do struggle with recruitment right now. It's hard. It's a hard industry. as they say, there's not many chefs out there that's not in front of house. We work well with the universities. We did use Indeed, but Indeed can bring in all sorts of issues. So we work well with the universities. If you get a great student, you look after them. You can have them for 3 years in your business, and they will live and breathe your brand for those 3 years. We've always done that, but we have to do it more so than ever now. And then we bring them through the ranks. It's the best way of consistency for your brand. And then I guess recruitment is still a big challenge, like I was just saying, but it's recruiting outside the box. So it's trying to find new ways to recruit. You can't just stick at jobs and Indeed and then complain that no one's applied. You need to get out there, we need to find that talent and nurture it. I guess we're very key on harvesting data, like we said. So we do a lot of that, and then it's how we use that data. We put out our social media and our newsletters. So a lot of it is driving footfall. So we need our brand to drive footfall. So you'll see we put on events and classes, so you can do dog life drawing, macrame making, jewelry making, and effectively they're there because people in Sheffield don't come out midweek, like I was saying. So they're there. We don't charge these guys anything to do their classes. We just want them to bring footfall to Cutlery Works. And then once they've been, they'll have food, they'll have drink, they'll tell their friends went to this amazing experience in Cutlery Works. And so it's a bit of a ploy. We're very keen on our brands to be family focused. We think now more than ever that we go out as a family unit. We don't just go out with the girls, out with the lads. The children these days are conscious on amazing food. They don't want to have just the usual. And so that kind of changed when we had children. So we realized that, and it works. So we like our kids eat free. That was a big one to get our kitchens to do. They just didn't believe they should have to give it away. Now every time we do kids eat free, they're our busiest weeks outside of Christmas for turnover. The way we got them to do that was that we told them that if they don't do it, Commune will do it first, and they'll have the upper hand, and they did it that way. So then we put in the sandpit. So the sandpit, which was in Cutlery Works, and they thought we were mad putting in a sandpit, but it was packed. Cutlery Works was always too hot in summer. We couldn't afford aircon year one, so it was always mad hot. So we put a beach in just to play on it, and it was a huge success. There was sand everywhere, of course, consistently sand, but it's those things where we just make it a little bit interesting, make it a bit different, make sure we are family first focused. And that, again, it's all about the service and standards, that we care about your experience. We want, I don't know if I can say it, we don't want more white boys doing fried food. It's been done and dusted. We've got, I'm guilty of it, we've all done it. It's easy, it's cash flow, but we want to showcase what Sheffield has. It's like we come back to that melting pot we discussed about earlier, Matt, and how we have these amazing communities. They just don't have this opportunity to get onto a platform. And so we'd like to reach out to more regional, ethnic cooking, whether it's like the bakers, the Somali kitchens, the Afghans, the Ethiopian. We just want to be able to get into those communities and say, look, we have a platform, please, that'll showcase that Sheffield is more than just either Cutlery Works commune or Yarrow or a pub or something like this. We are this multicultural society, and Sheffield is so welcoming to everyone from different backgrounds. It's that, but we just don't showcase it. Whereas, as I think we're all pretty much white, middle class, we don't go out to these areas hunting food like I alluded to before. So that's one thing we're looking for, but that's not ruling out everybody else. We're looking for people who are cooking that, it doesn't matter what it is effectively. It could be pizza, but you could be making like the best pizza we've had, and you're so passionate about it, the ingredients, the detail, that it's what we want. Or you're taking what you're growing in, I don't know, your polytunnels, and you're just cooking totally seasonally, and you can like, I can only cook for 6 months because I grow everything. And you're like, well, that's fine, let's do a 6-month pop-up. It's looking for something exciting. We don't need more burgers, we don't need more kebabs, we don't need more chicken brands. We need stuff that's invigorating and exciting. And it's I guess it's like when we interview, I'm crap in interviews, so I get bored. But if someone sparks that interest, it's like, yes, we can take this journey further. We have those conversations and we develop that brand into where it needs to be to go out to market. So it's someone who's driven and passionate and doesn't let that brand to be watered down. Just do it. Key that when people want to come into hospitality, they see that front of house, all lovely, all lovey-dovey, and it's great just take some food and some drinks out. But as part of the things we do look for, like you were asking before, is that they have to be 100% committed and they have to know that this will break them. They will hate it at some point. But it's your passion that will get you through.
The reason I'm involved with it, I worked with Start for so long, 10 years now. I feel like it's the hardest thing to execute. You can be brilliant, but making money is just not straightforward, is it? And like I said, these things can come outside of your control. It is something where, you know, for me, the reason I'm involved, just want to try and help people be as prepared as possible, have the best chance of success, isn't it? Because it's not, you can be amazing, can't you? But there's loads of other people that are great, isn't it? But it's challenging. The competition's high, and like you said, Sheffield is a battlefield, isn't it? I think.
Oh, completely. It's a tough city. And I think the other thing is that we see with a lot of other startups is it's that control of money. So you need to know your GPs. You need to be negotiating with your suppliers. You have to know your labour costs. You'll come into Cutlery Works, you'll be like, there's no staff in here. Where's all the staff? These guys are running. It's like, we're forecasted for this and that, and that ultimately is the costs. And so it's the most money you lose in this business is it walks out on 2 feet every day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, labour is the killer. And so that's why they need to, if it's your brand, your kitchen, you need to be in that kitchen to start a business. Yeah.
So you can encourage as well, like Matt was saying, I'm always on, do your cash flow before you start. That's what we're here for, like with school pop-ups and stuff as well. You know, if you want some support, definitely before you go for that bricks and mortar. And you may have
and you may be saying something that's amazing, but if there's no GP cash profit in it, then you need to be doing that. You need to be switching that product up. And the same goes for your upselling. So we use the app. The app is there harvest data, and because it's never hungover, it's never don't feel like coming to work, it never feels sick, it always upsells. So we were key when we were running ourselves. We'd have leader charts on who was upselling the most, who was selling the most large glasses of wine, all this in the milestone. We were doing all that in all our advance. We were selling the most chips. Bread and butter was the best one. So we did bread and butter and olives. We were guaranteed £6 before you'd even looked at the menu. So every time you came in a milestone, you were hit with some of our homemade bread and butter. £6 there and then. But people, it's that upselling, like you're saying, it's that extra cash flow that people need to be on.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Matt.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, nice one. And Matt and I were saying that great to host one of these at Cutlery Works with a live audience, and especially bringing in some of those different traders over there. So let's make that happen. I think
definitely, it'd be great
to be in person. Thanks everyone for joining. I've posted into chat. We've got an event on Monday, working with other humans, how to get it right with Jen. The key part of if we're going to go from one to many, if we're going to build a team, I'll be there. Sign up on Facebook if you'd like to join. I'll send you the Eventbrite link. Thanks again for Matt. Really enjoyed doing these. I've always felt beforehand I'm like nervous, but then it's just good to have that chat. And hopefully we can do more. So I'm going to finish off now. See you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Nice one.